Hey, it's Jared. I was recently a panelist on a parenting technology forum that the school that my kids go to held, and I was asked a question after that forum was over from a parent who was wondering why screen time was not working the way it should on their kids' devices. So, there's a game called Brawl Stars. It's one of the more popular games that kids are playing, and you'll find most teenagers playing that game any downtime that they have. However, this mom set 20-minute limits per day on Brawl Stars, which is, I think, decent amount. 20 minutes a day. That's a good chunk of time to spend on that game. However, she was explaining to me how her son ends up playing 45 minutes of Brawl Stars every day. And she was wondering why the screen time feature on iPhones and within iOS was not limiting her son's game time. Now, I know that there are a few ways to kind of circumvent things. They're usually pretty annoying, but upon some more research, I found that not all games adhere to the rules that Apple has put forth within iOS. So first of all, there's the 1 more minute loophole that works with more apps than you'd think. When you run out of screen time, there is the option to ask for more time or 1 more minute, which is designed to allow you to finish up whatever it is that you're doing, save whatever, and get out of that app so that you can not lose whatever you were in the middle of doing. It's a smart feature so that if you're working on something or you are in a game, you have the opportunity to save and get out of that game. But the problem is that there's the 1 more minute loophole that allows you to keep hitting 1 more minute. Now, this could be pretty annoying if you're playing a game and every minute you're hitting 1 more minute, you play a game for a minute, and then you get that screen lock again until you hit 1 more minute. But most kids out of boredom are not going to have a problem hitting that 1 more minute many times until they have to move on to the next thing. And that is a loophole that can allow kids to play games like Brawl Stars for a longer period of time. So that 1 minute loophole of just hitting 1 more minute and then hitting 1 more minute again and again and again, Apple has not sealed up the ability for certain apps to take advantage of that. The next thing is that some apps actually allow you to force quit the app and then reopen it, and it resets the clock on screen time. This is something that an app would have to do internally to maybe change the unique identifier or something within the app that would allow it to be seen as an app that hasn't been used yet. I'd say maybe more of a feature that an app developer would put into an app to circumvent screen time so that kids or anybody can spend more time in that game. And apps like Brawl Stars are known violators of that. There are a lot of apps that have whatever that is built into the code. I didn't research it, but I do know that apps can reset the clock essentially by initiating another instance or, something in the back end of the app that tells screen time this app has not yet been played. And that to me is kind of a malicious way of taking advantage of a feature that is put within iOS to protect our kids from spending too much time on these games. And so Brawl Stars and apps like that are known to circumvent this by taking advantage of that feature. Now, I haven't tested this one to see if Brawl Stars specifically is taking advantage of that, but I found plenty of research online to show that apps like Brawl Stars and others have taken advantage of this and that it's still an active loophole that Apple has yet to fix. So force quitting an app and relaunching it can sometimes take advantage of that. There's also app-specific bugs. Certain apps, including Brawl Stars, have been reported to not consistently respect screen time limits. And that kind of makes sense. We've talked about the force quitting and relaunching and the endless loop of hitting 1 more minute. These are different things that somehow an app can have a bug or maybe even a feature that they've included in the app that allows for the app to not adhere to those screen time features, which would allow a kid to play more than they should be. And I know my kids, if I set a 20-minute limit, even though there's a clock in the app, they've got their Apple Watch and probably plenty of other methods of telling time around them, they're not going to know when 20 minutes is up. These games are way too addictive and all-encompassing for a kid to be able to time themselves. They'd have to set an alarm and notice when the alarm goes off and then have the strength to quit the app on their own. And so screen time features definitely help with that. And when the app is not adhering to the screen time features, then we have a problem because kids end up playing apps longer than us as parents wanted them to have access. Some apps also have web versions or alternative apps that can be installed. For example, apps with web versions like Snapchat, Instagram. Kids can use Safari to access these apps or use another browser that they might have on their device. So if they run out of time within the Instagram app or the Snapchat app because screen time is limited, the amount of time they can spend in that, they can then open up the web version and get access to that as well. Some games have that, but it's not as common with games as it is with social media apps. There's obviously guessing or obtaining the passcode to just bypass and give themselves more time. So you want to make sure as a parent that the passcode, which is a 4-digit passcode that you can set for screen time, you might want to change that from time to time. I know we've had to give that passcode to my father-in-law so that he can enter it when we weren't there. Who knows? The kids could have seen it. I mean, I've had to go through a few different passcodes and change them from time to time because the kids got access to those passcodes. And it's just too much of a temptation to know that passcode, be in an intense part of the game, and then force yourself to stop. It's very hard. And so the temptation, if the kid knows the passcode, to enter it and give themselves more time is too great. So I highly recommend changing your passcode very often. Don't make it the same passcode that you use to unlock your phone, because that's a passcode people will see very often. And it could be just seen due to being near. And so I have a separate passcode for screen time that is completely different. And I change that passcode often, usually like once a month. There's also linked devices. If another device in the family group has a passcode that's less restricted, kids can use that one as well. So if you've given multiple people in your family, multiple adults, grandparents, or whatever, access to control screen time on your iCloud account, then maybe their less secure passcode could also be used as well. So it's not just your passcode, it's whoever else has access to make changes to screen time as well. There's also specialized unlocking tools, like tech-savvy kids might use third-party unlocking apps like any unlock via computer. You can connect your phone to a computer and unlock it that way. There are apps that are out there that can run on a computer and circumvent this by connection. And that's definitely something for the more tech-savvy kids who really, really want to get access to those games to the point where they're going to, do whatever it takes. This is one of those things where you're looking at the heart of your child and saying, okay, you went through a lot of effort just to play this game that I told you I did not want you playing more than X amount of time on. And, if they're going this far to get access to something on their device, then, maybe there's some intervention that needs to take place there. But in my research, I found that a lot of parents report that Brawl Stars in particular ignores screen time rules quite often, allowing kids to continue playing even after limits are set or enforced for other apps as well. I'm saying Brawl Stars a lot because this is the app that this parent asked for and asked about, but there are a lot of apps that also have these issues, and they're things that we have to watch out for. So it's important to go into your screen time settings on your phone or your device and check to make sure that these apps are adhering to the amount of screen time that you've set. This parent obviously did, and she was aware of the problem. She just was unsure as to how this continued to happen because she believed that she had her phone set up correctly with the correct screen time settings, and she did. So it's very important to check on these things from time to time because the apps can't be trusted. These developers want kids playing these apps as much as possible because there are ads and other things, other opportunities for these companies to spend money. So when screen time gets in the way, it gets in the way of their bottom line. And it's our job as parents to protect our kids and to make sure that the rules that we've put in place are adhered to. That means checking on things and not just setting it and forgetting it, because that's when we run into issues. What can parents do? Well, you can enable block it downtime and block at end of limit. These are two different screen time features that kind of pile both options on top of this app. So block the app at the end of limit, make sure it is blocked, and also block at downtime. So that way, block at downtime could be downtime during school. So setting school time. It could also be setting a downtime at the evening when you know devices are supposed to be put down. So that way there's two different things blocking this, as well as maybe the set amount of time that you put for this specific app to block it after they've exhausted that amount of time using the app. Ensure that these options are set for the strictest enforcement. Monitor battery usage as well, because sometimes these apps aren't showing the accurate amount of playtime. And so you can also go and look at the battery usage as well and see how much time an app has been running and how much battery usage has been used because of this app as well. That could be another way of seeing, is an app actually being used and not reporting in screen time like it should. Make sure, of course, all of your devices are updated with the latest iOS, iPad OS, watch OS updates. So that way any loopholes that some apps may try to push through are patched and taken care of, because Apple is not going to put up with that for very long. And so updates, of course, are going to fix those problems. And set individual app limits, setting limits for each app, not just categories. It's really hard if you set an app limit for a category, because that could take care of everything, even educational tools and stuff like that. I know my oldest son, uses his MacBook at school. And so I have to have app limits set specifically for apps and not just broad categories. Otherwise, he'll run out of time when he needs certain apps for school. And I want that to be separate. And so this could be tedious. A lot of apps you might have to go through and set individual time limits for. Some categories, yes, you can set a global time limit. But if there's apps specifically that you're wanting to make sure to limit, set individual limits for that app. Because an app developer could even recategorize their app, and it could show up in a different category for a little while, circumventing things as well. And as a last-ditch effort, you can always consider third-party parental controls. There are other tools that you can use to moderate and control things, especially if you're not on an iOS device. If you're on Android, there's definitely more, I'd say, intrusive applications that you can run on the device that will monitor and restrict things a lot better than an iOS device. But this goes back and forth. The iPhone might be the better option as far as enforcement. And then, things might get really tight there with security. Android might be more loose, and they just go back and forth. App developers are always looking for opportunities to figure out ways to keep kids engaged with their apps and circumvent some of the rules and things that are put in place. So the main thing is to have open communication with your kids, and not just setting these things and letting these limitations do the parenting. It's really easy to do that. Make sure there's open communication, setting realistic limits with your kids, having them agree to them ahead of time. And that's going to make things a little bit easier, especially when you see things slipping through the cracks. You can say, hey, we talked about this. Let's revisit this conversation and make sure that we're still both on the same page. We want to allow you to have access to this. And if you can't respect the time limits, then we're going to need to completely take access away. And we don't want to do that. So open communication is good, and not just setting it and forgetting it, but making sure that you're checking on the device. If you feel like there's an issue, check on it pretty often, maybe a couple times a week, then maybe go back to once a week. And then if things seem rather secure, maybe every other week, you check on things. Definitely don't want a full-time job checking on my kids' devices, but I want to make sure that there's nothing, even accidentally, that they are doing to circumvent these things. I want to make sure that everything's working and that they're safe and protected. That's going to do it for this video. Thanks so much for checking it out. If you found it useful, give it a thumbs up. Share it to another parent who is having issues with screen time and their children. I would greatly appreciate that. And subscribe to the channel for more content on this topic. Thanks so much, and we'll see you back soon.